Hello guys, and welcome to another video where I take a look at Pokemon that are coming back in from Crown Tundra and looking at their new calculations, new sets, and trying to find optimal sets for them which fit the metagame that's going to come in Crown Tundra. We can, for example, think of... well, basically I made a bunch of optimal spreads already in previous videos, and we got some sets from Series 5, so we can basically predict what kind of EV spreads are going to be optimal and how to calculate basically the best spread for these Pokemon. I'm doing all the job for you, so sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode. As always, we're going to start the episode looking at the bunch of the moves new Pokemon got. As we did before, I'm actually not going to be covering UC and mass spread in this video, since I really feel they're kind of inferior and not doing the job good enough. I'm not sure what mass spread stat distribution is, but for example for the UC we can basically assume it's towards Cresselia. They both got Levitate. But UC got more moves, but Cresselia is just so much more bulkier, so I'm pretty sure like UC has like more than 30 defenses, but it gets ruined by like base 75 HP. But Cresselia has base 120 HP, so like there is absolutely no use for UC. And best spread is literally stuck between Azelf and UC, and it's just jack of all trades but master of none. So again, I feel it's just inferior to Azelf. Azelf, however, is a unique Pokemon that can be used for unique calculations and unique interactions. Again, unfortunately, I feared it's going to be inferior to Latios, but it got 115 base speed, so it got something going for it. And again, last video we found out Latios got Mystical Fire, so even Azelf's maybe little niche of having Fire move over Latios might be ruined as well. But Azelf, unlike looks like Latios, got actually good fighting move. Although I'm literally again lying, because Latios got Aerosphere if I recall correctly. So can Azelf do that the Latios cannot do? Well, it got Player Off, it got Encore, that's just a bunch of weird moves. We're going to go over Azelf's more optimal sets in a second, but for now it got Drain Punch, it got Assurance, Dark move. Latios doesn't get any Dark moves, so... well, that can work, I guess. And then it just got a bunch of weird moves. It got Self-Destruct as a new move, because Self-Destruct was brought back as a TM from previous generation. Like, what previous generation? Actually, generation 1. It was the last time Self-Destruct was a TM if I recall correctly. So a bunch of new Pokemon got it, including Heatran, for example. Heatran, I think, got both Explosion and Self-Destruct, but Explosion is just strictly better, so there's no reason to use it over that. It got Body Slam, Heavy Slam, Heat Crash, some good physical moves, but again, Heatran will be most likely a special Pokemon. And it got Body Press. This is the more interesting addition to the moveset of Heatran though. But as you're gonna see, Heatran already got such a busy moveset to the point it's probably not gonna appreciate Body Press at all, and it's gonna be much inferior move, unfortunately. And for Cresselia, what it got new? It's Power Swap, Guard Swap. Would it be better if it was Guard Split, for example, to use a bit along with Troll Chansey, but unfortunately these moves are pretty horrible. Body Slam, Cosmic Power, that could be good for trolling, and Stored Power, so in some scenarios we're really gonna boost up Cresselia like crazy, which is rare in... I think that's pretty rare in doubles, because well, you can boost your Cresselia, but then you're probably gonna see your ally just fainting all over and over again to their own Dynamax, and in the late game you're gonna be literally Cresselia against 4 Pokemon. You did not want this late game scenario, so again, I feel all of these 3 Pokemon I'm gonna cover in this video, that being Azelf, Heatran and Cresselia, got kind of scuffed. They did not get much good new stuff, actually, unfortunately. Bit of unfortunate, but that's life for you sometimes. Turkrai got Phantom Force. Well, that's not the important thing, though. Let's actually... one last thing I want to note before we move into the actually calculations and stuff like that. You can actually play the Crown Tundra rules on different Pokemon Showdown server. That being... I can actually show it to you? I don't think I can, but... Alright, Sport PCM US actually has playable VGC format, which you can kind of emulate the new VGC format on. It has multiple bugs though. It allows Megas and bunch of restricted Pokemon as well, that being Groudon, Kyogre. My friend used Kyogre on ladder and won like every single game. Yeah, they got a bunch of bugs, but most of the people actually on this ladder won't use it seriously and for serious practice, so don't fear. Most of the practice you're gonna get is actually gonna be worth it. I'm actually like, what? Nah, no, it's not this one. You want DLC 2 because that one was National Legs. I'm actually 4th on ladders. Bunch of people laddered overnight. Usernames, but just the small TLDR for you. You can do this way, and you can practice this way. Also, they made the server also made this very useful, more graphical way to show you the new moves. So thank you for that. Thank you, Sport PCM US, for the more clear way to see DLC leaked moves list. Thank you. And now let's get to this set. Let me actually put this back. Alrighty. Yeah, that's perfect. So let me bring up the official calculations and we're going to get straight up to this. So Azelf as a fast reaper most likely wants Life Orb. And bunch of moves the Latios doesn't get. I was thinking about running physical set, but if you want a good physical Pokemon that can use like whatever, fighting move coverage or psychic type coverage, you're probably going to go and be better with something like Cinderace, which gets stab in all of these moves. Seriously, it even gets an headbutt. Instead of Drain Punch, it gets high jump kick. Instead of Fire Punch, it gets Fireball. Instead of Ice Punch, oh well, it doesn't have Ice move, but just get the idea. If you want a physical Pokemon that uses the very similar coverage this Pokemon has, even against Heatran as well, wow, you're probably going to be better with Cinderace. Acrobatics, Bounce, a Light Switch. I think the Cinderace gets a Light Switch as well. So literally, if you want to use physical Pokemon with similar coverage, please go ahead and see Cinderace. Unfortunately, I think like when you get to the special set, you'd most likely want to go for Latios as well, which has better stat distribution and doesn't have bunch of very high attack that doesn't go anywhere, unfortunately. And these stats actually go into something like a more useful stat like defenses. So that's Latios for you, but we can at least calculate some stuff about Azelf. So for defensive calculation first, Urshifu Dark type Sucker Punch does only about 60%. So watch out, if you do not Dynamax, Sucker Punch will just simply one-shot you. Tyranitar's Max Darkness, Azelf never had a chance to survive that. It just gets simply one-shotted by that, and that's not even Adamant Tyranitar, that's Jolly Tyranitar. And Venusaur's Max Overgrowth, again, that's over about 70%, something that Latios would take much better. I mean, even Max Darkness would not KO Latios, because it would drop the attack, unfortunately. So, unfortunately for Azelf, so far it's really inferior to Latios. Offensively though, Life Orb Max Mindstorm against Dynamax Venusaur has only 68% one-shot, with Life Orb Recall included. I calculated that with removing some HP out of the Venusaur in the calculator. Again, something like Latios does better because it has a bit higher special attack, that being base more than 30, unlike base more than 25 on Azelf. So it has, again, much higher chance to KO with Venusaur, and that's actually one of the few things Latios can do well. Azelf, Dazzling Gleam against Urshifu Single Strike, just simple one-shots. But it should not go up against Urshifu anyways, because if it got Choice Band, it will most likely ruin your whole Dynamax. But hey, it does some damage, so if you have Psychic Terrain, unfortunately for you, Azelf gets hit by Sucker Punch anyways because it has Levitate. With levitate ability, you actually do not take advantage of the terrains on the field, so it doesn't get the psychic terrain boost to the psychic moves either, unfortunately. Let's get over more calculations, shall we? Life Orb Azelf Max Starfall against Tornado and Sand. Well, about 70% against non-Dynamax T-Torn. Mingus gets one-shotted, luckily, by Max Mindstorm, so at least something is going well for Azelf. Max Mindstorm against Tapu Koko, again a clean one-shot. Max Phantasm against Tapu Lele, with Shadow Ball, actually. He's a one-shot as well, but I think Latios gets Shadow Ball as well, so... oh well. Max Phantasm against Cresselia, the common defense, special defense Cresselia is a 2-hit KO. But of course that means it's gonna get Trigger Room up before you can go, before you can KO it next time. You know what I'm trying to say. You probably want to one-shot Cresselia if you can, on turn 1. Flamethrower against Dynamax Kartana. Well, it's 37% to one hit KO with, but it's a Southwest Kartana that is, and so you probably want to go for a Max Flare and Dynamax your Azelf if you want to KO a Southwest Dynamax Kartana. People are not ready for Kartana being very defensive, actually. A lot of people expect it to just crumble to single Flamethrower, but with Southwest and Dynamax, Kartana is surprisingly, especially bulky. And this is the evidence for that. I Life Orb Azelf's Max Flare against kind of standard Celesteela. It's actually a bad EV spread because it has 8 special defense, which is the same as 4 special defense EVs, but it still just gets one-shotted by... I mean, it doesn't get one-shotted, wow. I didn't expect that, but I'm looking at the calculation right now, and it doesn't get one-shotted either. Rillabeam with Assault Vest doesn't get one-shotted either by the Max Flare. Next Lightning from Thunderbolt doesn't one-shot Tapu Fini at all. And that's the end of the calculations. So, what does Azelf do correctly? Not much. It's actually a pretty bad Pokemon when I look at it. It's as disappointing as something like Raikou, as I've explained in my past videos that I made like 4 days ago. Raikou is similarly disappointing. Without the stab and everything, like for example Cinderace has, it really doesn't get one-shots everywhere like Cinderace, for example, does. It's kind of disappointing, really. So if you want to use Azelf, please just use Latios. TLDR. And yeah, Vesperin and Ixie are again outclassed by Azelf or Cresselia respectively, and Azelf gets outclassed by Latios. So please go over and Latios. Watch that video I made like 2 days ago. It should be actually going up today when I'm recording this video, but go ahead and see Latios and see more happy calculations there. It's really nice to see something actually getting one-shotted most of the time. But that's life for you. Let's switch over to Heatran, shall we? Right. Heatran, most of the time will need Chica Berry to survive a calculation I'm gonna right now show you. But actually, you can see this is pretty simple EV spread like with Azelf, but trust me, a lot of these calculations are top-notch, very close, and you probably need this. You absolutely need max special attack to get the knockouts you need, and max HP to survive one very important calculation I'm going to show you a bit later in this video. So keep that in mind. Even though it looks like a stupid EV spread, it literally survives some of these attacks like on a spot. So it might look stupid, but mathematics and calculations speak for themselves. Heat Wave and Earth Power are self-explanatory. You absolutely need Earth Power coverage to beat other Heatrans and to hit stuff like Incineroar, for example. Just please, for love of God, don't do like this coverage. You're gonna get destroyed by Incineroar out of all things, and you definitely do not want that since you actually already have pretty positive matchup against it. But oh well. So yeah, look at this. Max special attack, and you want Solar Beam to actually knock out water types once you're Dynamax. It's actually really fun. Like really, even if you use Max Flare, the Solar Beams are gonna hit the water types after you Dynamax yourself as well. So I really feel like Solar Beam is actually very good on Heatran right now. It was used back in like, I remember some people use it like in Generation 7 with Grass Team Z as well. It was pretty fun interaction against these water types. Not fun for them, but certainly fun for you once you just one-shot them with max grass, and we're gonna do that as well in this format. So I think solarbeam is gonna be great on the Heatran, but if you look for something else, you can use flash cannon on or body press instead of the solarbeam right here. But let's go over to the calculations to actually tell you what we need to do. So actually, I'm going to start with defensive calculations. They're surprisingly low amount of calculations I made for this. Oh well. But these calculations speak for themselves. All right. Life Fort max attack element max quake from Landorus against Heatran is a guaranteed to hit KO thanks to Shuka Berry. That's useful. Wow, that's pretty good. And it's like with 2% disparity I actually survive this. So that's cool. You're gonna survive at least one attack, and that's could be difference between loss and win. So yeah, definitely I would recommend you running this so you survive this. But here is one more, even more important calculation, and this is why I actually switched to 252 HP. Life Fort Venusaur, Max Quake, Max Special Attack Modest against Shukaberry Heatran, non-Dynamaxed. Non-Dynamaxed is only 12% one-shot with Shukaberry. So you don't even have to use Dynamax Heatran to counteract the Venusaur, or to do some good damage against it. You just use the Heat Wave, survive the attack, and do like 40% back, which could be definitely useful for your other Dynamaxer to finish off the Venusaur in late game. This is the calculation that you definitely want to do, because if you survive this, you can definitely turn around games otherwise unwinnable. Really, Venusaur is gonna really scratch its head like, wow, it survives that? Wow, seriously, that's cool. And I think this is very important calculation to keep in mind. That being said, let's go over to offensive calculations. So, Heatran's Max Flare against Dynamax Metagross, 1252 HP. That's about 80%, but I think they just one-shot you back. So if you're watching the video right now, you should be seeing the calculations right below me. I do not know the calculation right now, but definitely you should see it right now. And see if it's worth it and if it's going to survive the Max Quake back. But I think it should be surviving, plus the Max Quake back, thanks to your own Dynamax and Shukaberry as well, so... Oh well. Heart Power against Tapu Koko. Actually, I'm showing you wrong calculation here as well. Oh my goodness. But it should be guaranteed one-shot from what I'm seeing here. So again, guaranteed one-shot to Tapu Koko, that's pretty cool. Or very close to guaranteed one-shot. Max Flare against Rillabeam with Assault Vest is actually a guaranteed one-shot, even if you're not max special attack. That's cool. Heatran's Max Flare against Landorus Styrian form. Non-Dynamax, non-Assault Vest. There's not one-shot, but... it has 37% of one-shot, so any small chip will be able to KO it. And actually, if you want to be more YOLO and want to run Overheat instead of the Heat Wave, you can actually KO Landorus most of the time with Max Flare against Landorus Styrian. Overheat has 81% one-shot, but do not really recommend that unless you want to not run Protect, because Heat Wave is just such an unforgettable move on a Heatran. You just want to have it on a Heatran. Max Overgrowth against Tapu Fini is a 2-hit KO. If it's in Grassy Terrain, and this is only 252 HP Tapu Fini, so for example you have Rillabeam on your team, if this is like Calmine Fini that doesn't have much special defense, I'm pretty sure it's just one-shot, which is very cool actually. So yeah, that's going to be very surprising for Tapu Fini, like I'm going to set up Calmine safely against it and then just get one-shotted on with Rillabeam switching. So that's pretty cool. Heatran's Max Steel Spike, if you won't run that, does not one-shot Terminator in Sand, even non-Dynamaxed, and procs the weakness pluses, so watch out for that. But it does about 85% normally, and about 42% with the Dynamax Terminator. Max Flirt against Max Special Defense Coordinate, just simply one-shots it, that's cool. Max Quake against Dynamax Heatran, that will be timid natured, that being said they actually survive the attack. Alright, so this EV spread from Heatran actually allows you to survive Max Quake without Chicoberry, and it survives that and you don't one-shot it, unfortunately. But it's if it's 4 HP, you should have realistically quite a high chance to one-shot Heatran, as you're seeing the calculation right now. So, oh well. Max Steel Spike against Togekiss, that's not Dynamax, it doesn't have Bubble Berry, is actually guaranteed one-shot again for those fans of Flash Cannon on a Heatran. And Flash Cannon against Tapu Lele, good reminder, actually doesn't one-shot it without Dynamax. You do, even if you're a modest max special attack, you have only 62% one-shot, so watch out for that. And let's go over to Cresselia set. So, what do we want to start with? The Calmite or the support set? Alright, offensive Cresselia. Alright, so because you're gonna be Dynamaxing most of the time, you might not want to have Moonlight, but if you want to have Moonlight, I would probably recommend running it instead of the Moonblast, as it has pretty similar coverage to Psyshock. Of course, you're gonna be hitting something like Dark type, like Incineroar, but I think S-Beam is a bit more important to keep in mind, so you can react more stuff, actually. Actually, again, can react very similar stuff, but you're gonna see the calculations. Unfortunately for Cresselia, a bunch of these calculations are pretty disappointing, even though you have Dynamax form. So let's see some calculations. Our usefull single strike actually gets one-shotted by the Moonblast on the spot, even without a boost, non-Dynamax, so that's pretty cool. Max Mindstorm against Tapu Koko, if you're a +1 special attack, actually one-shots it. But keep in mind, this is Tapu Koko, that's pretty low special defense, pretty low HP, and actually doesn't Dynamax. Dynamax Venusaur, if you're a +2 special attack, you literally one-shot it on the spot. So that's again kind of useful, but it requires 2 Calm Minds to be setting up. Which means the Venusaur will be getting like G-Max Spine Lash off, and even if you have Red Reaction, you will gonna be taking quite a big amount of damage, so... Rakovish against Max Mindstorm, Max Mindstorm against Rakovish, has pretty... just one-shots it, that's cool. And here comes the more disappointing calculations. If you're at +2 and you use Max Hailstorm against Dynamax Tundras, you do not one-shot it. If you're a +2 with Max Hailstorm against Dragapult, you do not one-shot it. And you know they're probably going to do massive damage to you in the back, so... doesn't make you feel very comfortable. Max Hailstorm against Max HP Assault Vest Rillaboom doesn't one-shot it. Though you have hail damage, but it's still, with hail damage, it's pretty bad chance to one-shot. Modest might be good here just because of that, but I myself like to use boosting natures on a stat that's more beneficial. Like you see here, it only increases by 12, but if you use Calm Nature, it actually increase it by 15. So I like to use natures that are more efficient to the Pokemon and do give it more base stats. More raw stats, I would probably supposed to say. But oh well. Cresselia, Max Hailstorm against Togekiss. Actually one-shot it if they don't Dynamax, but they most likely will Dynamax, and if they are support Togekisses, they might have more special defense investment as well, so... Again, keep it in mind, even if they don't Dynamax, you might not have a guaranteed chance to one-shot it. And again... you need to be +2 here, unfortunately. Max Overgrowth, if you're into Energy Ball Primarina, Energy Ball Cresselia, you can actually want your Primarina with Max Overgrowth if you're a +2. And of course, Primarina doesn't have Assault Vest or doesn't Dynamax. And Max Hailstorm against Zapdos, that's Dynamax, again, doesn't one-shot at all, even if you're a +2. A bunch of disappointing calculations. Unfortunately, the Dynamax works for Cresselia, but also against Cresselia, so it doesn't really have any good matchup against other Dynamaxers. Now, here are some calculations. Life Orb Max Atom Force? Oh, I was really surprised by how low damage does it do to Cresselia. But it was just Phantom Force. Oopsie daisy. So... I'm gonna make a slight cut here and I'm gonna calculate it right now, so I'm cut. Alrighty, so we are back and I'm seeing the calculations are pretty similar to those what I calculated. So actually I do not want to switch in here. Alrighty, so you should be seeing the Cresselia again. So Max Phantasm from against Dynamax Cresselia. 2 hit goes pretty cleanly, so watch out for that. Previously for my calculations, I was like looking at the calculations for a second and was thinking like, Oh, wait a minute, what? It doesn't one-shot? It's kind of weird, honestly. So yeah, it doesn't get its prickly into it KO by the max mechanism from Dragapult. Wicked Blow or Shifu Single Strike has pretty high chance of one-shotting you, so what the hell am I talking about? It's a guaranteed free KO, so it's pretty safe against it, but unless you have Moonblast, you won't be able to do much back. Although Max Hailstorm has realistically quite a high chance to KO it, if you get plus the special attack, that is, which requires 2 turns to leave Cresselia alone. And Incineroar's Throat Chop, guaranteed 5-hit KO if you're Dynamax Cresselia. Of course, we're Cresselia, so it of course takes the attacks much better. Now, let's look over the support Cresselia. That one is really fast though. I'm gonna talk about it real fast. So, you get basically the moveset on Cresselia is custom. You can use any moves that your team requires. You probably need 1 attack, Trick Room, and bunch of support moves. But the idea of this Cresselia is to survive as many attacks as possible. So, here is the deal for support Cresselia. Life Orb Max Phantasm against this Cresselia from Dragapult does not one-shot it. Never one-shots. This EV spread allows you to do so. Informationally, Wicked Blow. If you're up against Choice Band or Shifu with Wicked Blow, you can almost never survive this unless you run max defense. So if you really fear the Urshifu with Choice Band, you should run max defense, and even then you're gonna be KO'd like 18% or 10% each of the time. But if you're really scared, this is as best you can do. This way it's about 40% of one shot this way, unfortunately. And Chandelas, Max Phantasm against this Cresselia. Actually this is really dirty spread, but against this Cresselia is again only 12% of one shot, so that's pretty cool. You never KO'd from very strong physical Max Phantasm, and you're never KO'd from very strong special Max Phantasm. So I think that's pretty cool, and with that, I'm probably ending the video here. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time with the video on the genies with Defiant and Cheerfrost Landorus and Tiered Inform Landorus. That's gonna be a much larger video, so keep that in mind, and I'll see you and get you next time.